So we already covered a lot about components, and it's almost time to have our first little project using all that knowledge to build a little application. First, there's another thing I want to show to you, or two other things. The first thing is we're already nesting a component here. We're nesting this my component into our root component, the app component. Now let's create another component. Test component, just test component. Test.component.ts, and I will again export a class called test component, and I will, let me zoom in a little bit. I will add my import. So I'll import my component from Angular 2 core, Angular 2 it should be, and I will add my decorator. So again, component, pass JavaScript object with a selector of test and a template of, well, here I'm going to use an external template HTML file so that you can see how we do that. So I will have a template URL here, and I want to lead this to, I will create a new folder for that, which I will call templates, and then let's just say test.tpl.html. That's just the way I will name it. I will create that folder now here. Directory will be templates, so it's on the root level, and then I will have a name of test.tpl.html, and here I will just have an h1 tag. This is my second component with an external HTML file. So that's that. And now this test component, I will embed it here at the bottom of my other component, of the my component, by using test, and I will have to add my directives metadata here, so an array where I then import test component, otherwise we would not be able to use it. Now let me save this. Oh, you can already see it there with an external HTML file, my second component. So this is how we use external HTML files instead of writing all our template like this in our TypeScript file. We can use an external file here. So that's one thing. The other thing is back to my component here. I'm here setting my name to Max. And besides the fact that I probably want to get it dynamically in a real app, or I want to be able to input it in an input field, we can do it like this, that we set up a default value, but let's try a different way of setting up a name when the component starts, but not setting it up here. So I will just delete the value and just say that this should be a string. So this is TypeScript here, that I'm setting this to type string. So it's not initialized yet, it's just, I declared this property, but it has no value as of now. Now, I could use my constructor to say this.name equals max. And if I save this, you can see it's still displaying max, so this would work. But I don't want to use my constructor. This has several reasons, and it's just not the best style, because it would work for this, but let's imagine we would have an operation which might take a little bit longer, then this would keep our whole component from loading just because we're waiting for this property to be set. So I will use one of the lifecycle hooks Angular 2 provides for components. These lifecycle hooks are certain events which are fired throughout the lifecycle of a component. So whenever Angular 2 creates a component, and it does this for this my component because, we tell it here, we need this my component, please create it, we're embedding it here. So when it creates this, it's entering certain phases. And during each phase, it gives us the opportunity to do something. So I'm interested in the onInit hook, which is fired when, the component is ready to load and is initialized. So I will implement this. This is an interface on init. And make sure you import it. Import on init from Angular 2 core. That's, as I said, the interface which needs to be imported. Now I got an error here because I'm not implementing the method this interface requires me to implement. Now, if you're not sure what interfaces are, it's generally a contract our class which implements it has to sign. So it says, okay, this interface requires every class which implements it to have certain methods or properties. And those contracts, those interfaces, are therefore used to make sure that, well, for example, certain classes can interact because they know, hey, this class implements this contract. I can safely call this method in this class because it has to have it, because this interface requires it to have it. So that's the same thing here. We're implementing on init, and then Angular 2 knows, well, I can execute the on init method in this component when this lifecycle hook is reached, or this phase in the lifecycle is reached, because this interface which I'm implementing here requires me to have the respective method implemented. So in this case, that's the onInit, the ng onInit method. This will be called when this component is initialized. Now there are other lifecycle phases which we're not implementing, and therefore Angular 2 will not try to call the respective methods in our component because it can't be sure that we're implementing those methods. So now this ng onInit will be called when our component is initialized, and here is the place where I will then set my name to Max, and let me save this. And again, we see nothing changes, which means it still works. And now we're setting the value of this property in this place. And those lifecycle hooks will be something we will use throughout this course, and you will use all those hooks in your applications. And there are more hooks than just the onInit hook, but I have attached to this course a document which shows you all the hooks you can use and when they are kind of fired by Angular 2. Now, this is it for the basics about components, how we insert data, how we use our template expressions, how we use data binding, and we really covered a lot here. And I think it's now finally time to have our first little project to take what we learned and put it into action. See you there. Bye.